Okay, the very last problem here in your notes today will involve solving a trig equation. And it's really just applying the new principles of using your sine sum formula and your tangent difference formula and your old trig equation skills, and to solve it on the interval from 0 to 2 pi non-inclusive. Okay, so when you see a sine sum, right, a tangent difference, clearly you want to apply the formula. So let's expand this, and then we'll see if we can simplify this. Okay, so over here, if I want to take the sine of sum of x plus pi over 2, I'm going to write 2. In fact, I'll write a bracket over here to show the expansion. The sine of the first angle, the cosine of the second angle, and plus the cosine of the first angle, which is x, and then times the sine of the second angle. Okay, so this is just expanding the sine of sum, the sine sum formula of x plus pi over 2. Okay, and you could keep this 2 outside. Okay, so you probably want to save yourself some space horizontally, right? Because now I have to expand the tangent formula. The tangent difference formula states that 3 tan of pi minus x, I basically take the tangent of the first angle, which is tangent of pi, minus the tangent of the second angle, tangent x, all over 1 plus tan of pi times tan of x. Okay, all of this is equal to 0. Okay, so you have this really lengthy equation that looks messy, but as you probably can deduce, right, a lot of this stuff is going to simplify, and it will. Cosine of pi over 2, right, on a unit circle, the x value is, cosine of pi over 2 is just the x value when it's pi over 2 radians. The x value is just 0. So this right here is going to go to 0. The sine of pi over 2, right, is just going to be 1. So this guy right here goes to 1. Tangent of pi, the ratio of y over x, when it's at pi radians, the ratio of y to x is 0 to -1. 0 divided by -1 is just 0. So this value is going to go to 0. This value right here is also going to go to 0. And so let's clean that up. So if I have this value goes to 0, right, 2 times 0 is just going to be 0. 2 times cosine of x, and this guy right here is just 1. All I'm going to be left with is 2 cosine of x. Okay? And on this side right here, right, this is going to be 0. 0 minus tan x is negative tan x. So I'm going to have negative 3 tan x in the numerator. 1 plus 0 is just 1. So negative 3 tan x over 1 is just negative 3 tan of x. Okay, so after all that work, I have a basic trig equation that looks something like this. Okay, all right, so what I would do, right, remember your trig equation skills, right? So I'm going to write 2 cosine of x minus tangent of x is sine x over cosine x, is basically try to combine these two right here. These two terms. And right now, if I multiply top and bottom by cosine x over cosine x, I'm going to get 2 cosine squared x, right, over cosine x minus 3 sine x over cosine x. Okay, so all I did was combine these two. If I multiply this guy by cosine x over cosine x, I would get cosine squared x over cosine x. And if you do a little cross multiplication, right, these terms will cancel out. So you're left with 2 cosine squared x minus 3 sine x is equal to 0. Okay, so I want everything in terms of one trig equation, right? Cosine squared x is 1 minus sine squared x. Be careful when you distribute over here. You're going to get 2 minus 2 sine squared x minus 3 sine x is equal to 0. And now, if you move all these terms over, I typically like to keep my squared term positive. I'm going to have 2 sine squared x positive 3 sine x, right, minus 2 is equal to 0. It's a little bit easier to visualize how to factor this. I'm going to write 2 sine of x And then factors of 2 that are going to give me 3 here in the middle. I'm probably going to use 2 and then just 1 over here. Okay, and I want to call this positive. I want to call this minus. Right, this will give you negative sine x, positive 4 sine x, minus sine x gives you that middle term of positive 3 sine x. Okay, so we're almost done. Over here, we're going to get 2 sine of x minus 1 is equal to 0. Sine of x plus 2 is equal to 0. So this equation, you're going to get sine x is equal to 1/2. And where is the sine 1/2? Well, it's positive in quadrant 1 and 2. You're going to get 2 x values of pi over 6 and 5 pi over 6. And over here, sine of x is equal to negative 2. Remember, this value, the greatest, this value right here needs to be between 1 and negative 1, right? So there is no sine whose ratio, whose y value is negative 2 on the unit circle, right? So this one's undefined. So your only answer in this problem is pi over 6 and 5 pi over 6. Okay, so the trickiest part about this problem isn't so much the formula itself, right? It's really the majority of the work, right? If you take a look, right, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 lines of just solving trig equations. And trig equations, as I mentioned, can be a little bit tricky. There are other ways of doing this problem that will yield the same answer. But the key is to expand this using your sine sum formula, tangent difference formula, and then once you expand it and simplify, you end up with something a little bit nicer. But sometimes, even though as nice as it is, you still need to do some manipulation to get down to this.